Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we talk a lot about the home teams. We'll talk about the Saints, the Pelicans, Tulane, LSU, and we got a great panel to break it down. Garland, Gillen of Fox 8 Sports and Brett Martel of the Associated Press join us tonight on Inside New Orleans Sports. Gentlemen, thanks for coming down. Always appreciate it. Garland, we always like to start off talking about what you guys are involved in. And
what are we not involved in?
Yeah, you guys got a show every single night. And let me tell you, I love the Fox 8 Overtime show.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, that's our Tuesday night show. Yeah, because we
got lay it out for the folks.
Yeah, Deuce, Sean Fazan, and Juan Kincaid on Monday night at 10:35. We got the Black and Gold breakdown. We break down the game from the day before. Tuesday night is a Fox 8 Overtime. It's our new show that just premiered this fall, where it's Hagan, Fazan, Kincaid, and I, and we just roundtable and just talk about everything sports. We even talk about a little high school football in there. Wednesday night is a game plan, get you ready for the next game. Then now we have Thursday night football on Fox, which we've had really good games every week there. That Vikings-Rams game was fantastic. Fox 8 football Friday, obviously Friday night, and then Sunday got tailgate at 10 a.m. when the Saints play at noon, and then we wrap it all up on Final Play at 10:30. So 3.5 hours of programming per week on Fox 8. So we got anything you need to talk about, college, pro, prep, we got it.
And I love your blog. Tell the folks about it.
I just wrote an entry today there. I went to Saba Uptown. Brett, have you been to Saba yet? Alon Shai's new restaurant? Yeah. The Blue Crab Hummus, give it a thumbs up there. But yeah, I wrote a new entry today where I talk about football, throw a little soccer in because some of my readers, not the biggest fans of soccer, so I throw a little in there, not much. And then I talk about a restaurant, and this week I went with Saba, which I've eaten at twice since it's opened, and it's got some good dishes on their menu.
He must run like 10 miles a day.
I do run, and I get that every day on Facebook. Right. I post food, and people are like, why are you not 400 pounds? And I said, well, I got up at 8 a.m. and I went and ran like 7 miles on the streetcar line, okay? I run so I can eat.
There you go. No doubt about it. And, of course, the Fox 8 app, that's how you can find out all that's going on.
Yeah, Final Play app, a ton of Saints, and the Fox 8 app has everything else on there. I write a ton. I'm also the head of Sports Digital, so whatever you need, we got it, man. It's all out there.
Thanks for joining us. It's always good to have you, Brett Martel of the Associated Press. Tell us about that fine organization.
Well, first of all, I've known Garland a while, and I think you do portion control too, don't you?
Yeah, I eat half the meals.
Do you really?
Yeah. When I was younger in college, I used to eat like the whole thing. I thought it was like a contest to eat the whole plate.
Right.
Now I cut everything in half, and I eat the other half later. There. So yes, portion control.
Portion control.
Well, I come from an era where you had to clean your plate because the people in China were starving.
Right.
So again, our parents made us clean our plates.
Yeah, it's just
you see why, right?
Yeah. Moderation plus exercise, and you can get away with a lot more than you think. But anyway, AP is it's a worldwide news organization based in New York City with sports arm, and so I'm the correspondent in Louisiana. We have the AP Top 25 football and basketball poll, and Garland doesn't want to boast about himself, but
I do that too.
He is an AP Top 25 voter. Right. AP administers the poll and picks the voters. And Garland has been one of our most reliable, well-researched voters. And just because I know him personally, I know he stays up late, watches all the highlights at 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, reads everything. He also votes in our all SEC teams and stuff like that. So it's good to be on with him, and we appreciate all he does for AP. And then, so I have to cover all the major sports in South Louisiana, really the whole state of Louisiana, but the last time I was up in North Louisiana was when Colin Kaepernick played for Nevada.
Wow.
And they were ranked, and they played at Louisiana Tech.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot has happened. A lot has transpired since then with Colin Kaepernick. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Well, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. Well, we couldn't start this show without talking about Drew Brees. Saints win 43-19 over the Washington Redskins, 4-1 at the bye. Garland, I'll take you first. Before we get into the night that was the Dome, talk about Drew Brees, the quarterback, Drew Brees, the man, and really how lucky we are to have him here in New Orleans.
Since 2006, he's been just a godsend to New Orleans. I mean, we're used to losing in New Orleans. Used to a lot of bad football. When you win your first playoff game against the Rams in 2000, that is a long time to be in the organization to get your first win. He's been great for the city, the family, the 4 kids. They live uptown in the middle of people don't realize a lot of the Saints players do not live in the city. Right. A lot of them live on the North Shore. They live in Destrehan. They kind of space themselves out. Drew lives right by Audubon Park. I'm not going to give the exact location, but a lot of fans know where it is. Right. But he lives right by Audubon Park. He's in the community. He practices with his flag football team in Audubon Park. You can see him on the side working. He's got his own league that it's at City Park every Friday night. So he's in the community. You can eat at a lot of his restaurants that he endorses. It's been really cool to have him here. And he's been, a lot of these quarterbacks in the league, they're not rah-rah guys, they just kind of do their job and move on. Like, I love that Drew Brees is in the middle of everything. I love the pregame chant. I loved it forever. I love seeing that on the air. Everything that goes into him being the quarterback for the Saints and with Sean. I love how they roll the dice a lot. Okay, I don't like teams that just. It would make me sick covering a team like the Cowboys when they punt the ball on 4th and 1 on the 42-yard line, on the Texans 42 like they did the other night. Right. I was watching that going, Sean Payton's going to just go for that. I like coaches that roll the dice a ton, okay? That's why even though Les Miles had a crazy amount of just, he did some things that were a little off the reservation. He went for it a ton. Yes. I love when people fake punts and everything. That's the kind of stuff I go for. So with Sean and Drew in New Orleans there, it's been really cool covering them there. And it's really cool to cover a winner. Okay, let's be honest.
Yeah.
No one likes covering a lot of bad football. Yeah. And in 07 and 08, it was not, you go out to Metairie, it's not as fun to listen to a team talk that's like 5-10,
No doubt. Brad, you've covered Brees since he's been here. Obviously, you were covering sports before. During Katrina, you covered recovery, you covered what happened in the storm, and then went back to sports. I can't imagine this city without Drew Brees in a post-Katrina world.
Right. He's become an institution, really. He's ingrained in so many aspects of life here now. They have these black and gold days at school, on a Monday for a Monday night game or Friday for a Sunday game, and you'll see these kids wearing the easy breezy T-shirts or whatever, because they don't have to wear their school uniform. They can just wear black and gold those days. So my daughter has one. That's why I've seen that one. But anyway, like Garland says, he's got businesses here, and then he's also, good friends with a number of people in the restaurant industry. You see him around town, and renovated a damaged post-Katrina home, not flooded, because he's by Audubon Park, but it still got ripped up like a lot of the houses up there, and so he's helped rebuild a lot. He's been involved in Habitat for Humanity, but he's been here over a decade, performing at an extraordinarily high level. He's currently on pace for his 6th 5,000-yard season, which is unbelievable. I don't know if he'll get there just because he's thrown more the first 4 weeks with Mark Ingram out, and they had called more passing plays, but he is, when Ingram was out and he had to throw, he threw, and he's averaging over 300 yards a game.
It's amazing. It really is. Yeah. Guys, you both were there on Monday. Compare and contrast some other big games. Some want to compare it to the Dome coming. What was the vibe?
Yeah, I did a top 3. I posted it on Facebook. I still, number 1's Dome coming for me. Number 2 was when they beat the Vikings to go to the NFC title game. And number 3 was Hakeem drops the ball. I mean, the Saints first. That was before Brett's time in New Orleans there. But
I was at that game, though, but I wasn't working that day.
Oh, you were not working that day?
I was in news.
Okay, you're in news.
Yeah,
okay, so Brett was at all 3 that I was at also. So that was number 3 for me. But I think the Breeze was probably in the top 5. But it did those 3 moments, there's so much surrounding them. Breeze broke a record, but it was just a regular season game. And Breeze has broke records before. And maybe he'll break another one soon.
Right.
So I'm not saying these are like, not all these aren't special.
Right.
But it was a regular season game. If this was if this was a clinch a playoff spot, there would have been a lot more around it. But the night was magical, man. Anytime you can play Monday Night Football, there's a little extra juice in the stands. I think everybody's a little more, was probably at the bar a little longer. People getting off of work at noon. I know the CBD was packed around the afternoon.
It was Columbus Day. A lot of those government workers were off.
Yeah, the place was jam-packed. So Monday Night Football it was awesome. And it's really cool when you get home. I got home at like 1 in the morning after writing my stories. And then you turn on SportsCenter, and he's the lead. And then the next day you get up, and all the yapping heads are all talking about Breeze is in the top 5. It's kind of cool to see, people talking about the teams that you cover there and kind of get their own perspective on it there. So it was a magical night. I won't put it in top 3, but it was up there.
Where do you put it, Brett?
Well, I don't know if I put it in the top 3, but it's really close. It's like definitely in the top 10 and probably top 5. And the reason I think is because there was a lot of. It's not like there was any suspense. I mean, he was going to break it sooner or later, but. The cool thing was that, yes, it did happen when it was the only game on TV, on national TV on Monday night, and it happened on a 62-yard touchdown pass. He always seems to come up with these amazing plays, to pass milestones. They often seem to have a little extra somehow. It's cool. It wasn't just some check down, that went for 5 yards and he's got the record. And if he throws for a loss on the next play, he won't have the record anymore.
Sure.
He threw for it, a 62-yard touchdown. That was it. He knew. He wasn't going to have 62-yard losses and passes after that. So, it was right before halftime, and the crowd went crazy, and it was right before the 2-minute warning, which meant they could stop the game like they had planned to, because they didn't want to stop it in a 2-minute situation to honor him. So everything went perfect. It is a very prestigious record. And, now all he has, he's got, 40 to go for the touchdown, except that Tom Brady's one ahead of him, but also a year older than him. So, I don't know. He's got to somehow outpace Brady or outlast Brady, and he will have all the major career records, and it's significant. I think we're so used to his prolific production, but, only one guy in the history of the entire NFL can have the most of all time, and he's got it in completions and yards, and probably is going to have it in touchdowns.
Right. That leads me to my next question. A lot of disrespect for Drew Brees this week on a national level, questioning again where he is in the hierarchy of NFL quarterbacks all time. I talked about it at least twice on the radio show this week. Brett, I'll take you first. First of all, what's up with the disrespect? Second of all, where is he in the hierarchy of NFL quarterbacks?
Well, I think the disrespect is a combination of people being slaves to conventional wisdom, right? It's not tall enough, whatever, doesn't look as athletic enough, not big, tall, not the strongest arm, all those things. The same reason he was lightly recruited out of high school and ended up at Purdue, where he was, by the way, a Heisman Trophy finalist and led Purdue to the Rose Bowl. How many Rose Bowls has Purdue been since then? So then, you know what I mean? And the same reason that a couple years after he's with San Diego, they drafted Phillip Rivers. And, the same reason that Nick Saban wasn't willing to take a chance after his doctor said, we don't like the looks of this. But Sean Payton was. And I think Sean deserves a lot of credit for understanding and understanding the intangibles that can transcend, measurables, and gambling on him in that way. But a lot of people just, and it's funny because Sean, the production speaks for itself. For all of Sean's quirks, he's clearly like borderline genius as it comes to designing offenses. I don't know about anything else, but he's clearly got a talent for that. And and maybe people are saying, well, that's one of the reasons that Drew Brees has such good numbers. Maybe any quarterback could have done it.
He's a system quarterback.
Right. But Sean chose him, and stuck with him all this time. And he's 39 years old, and he's still under contract for another year. And at the way he's playing, I don't see how they can't really extend him again, unless there's a major injury or something weird or unexpected happens.
Garland?
I think we're obsessed with just championships.
Okay.
And the Saints didn't make the playoffs for a three-year stretch between 2014 and 2016. He does have one Super Bowl trophy, and I've heard a lot of talking heads say if he didn't have that trophy, he'd be on the same level with Phillip Rivers right now because they both no rings. So Breeze has that cachet of that one Super Bowl trophy, and that's why Dan Marino is, some consider him to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but he doesn't make those top 10 lists because he has 0 trophies, and that's what they want. That's why I always talk about Joe Montana, who also played at Notre Dame. They love John Elway because he was the #1 pick in the draft, and then all the drama went with him going to play baseball at the Yankees and then coming back and playing with the Broncos there. He has 2 Super Bowl trophies, lost 3, but he was 2-3. Same thing with Peyton Manning, he has 2. They love Ben Roethlisberger because he has 2 Super Bowl trophies. It goes all the Super Bowl trophies. Now, they understand that Terry Bradshaw was not a fantastic quarterback. I know he had 4, but Bradshaw was above average probably quarterback there. Troy Aikman has 3 also. Troy Aikman gets in that conversation just because he has 3 Super Bowls. So everybody's obsessed with winning Super Bowl trophies. But I will say this. I don't know if y'all watched it, but the Saints social media department posted it on Wednesday morning, Drew Brees' speech in the locker room.
I saw it last night on your program.
Right. Yeah, actually, John Bennett, my producer, I saw it on Twitter and I sent it to him. I'm like, this stuff's great. Drew made it known in that speech, and he said, I came back for one reason. And that's the only reason, because in the last summer, and I think I talked about this on the show with you before, in that conference call he had after he signed his contract, he said he would not tell us when he's going to retire. He said he's got it in his mind. He's told his family, but he's not going to tell anyone else. This is why I think Peyton Manning's touchdown record might be safe, because if Drew and them go to Atlanta, where the Super Bowl is this year, and they win it, I'm convinced, I said it this offseason, that he will leave. And watching that speech, I'm more convinced than I ever am now that the only reason he came back was to win that second Super Bowl trophy. And right now, the Rams and the Saints are it in the NFC. I've seen power rankings that have the Bears #3 right now. I mean, Khalil Mack's good, but are you going to put everything on Mitchell Trubisky? No. The Packers got smoked by the Lions last week. The Eagles are playing above, right around 500. Same thing with the Vikings. Lost the Bills at home. So right now, that game's happening in, 3 or 4 weeks against the Rams. We're going to know a ton. If this defense gets it right, I'm sure we might talk a little more about this. They get the defense right, the offense is good to go, then we're going to be talking about them in the NFC title game going against the Rams, and all the things he talked about the other night could come to fruition, and this could be the swan song for Brees. And if he gets that second ring, puts him on a whole new level where people have said he wasn't in the top 5, then he will be in that top 5.
Is it Brees' fault that this franchise has not put a consistently middle-of-the-road defense, just middle-of-the-road defense there for him? Again, he has done everything he can. He's elevated everyone on that team's play, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I think we had talked about it earlier this week. Where's the Pro Bowlers? Where's the All-Pro receivers? I mean, he's had some good running backs. He's had some pretty good offensive lines, but the skill position players, he elevates those players. You know, again, something has to be said for what he has been able to do in his career without having a great defense.
Yeah, and, it's true that a lot of his yards in his career have been after the catch, but understanding where to distribute the ball.
And the accuracy.
I mean, not only getting a player who's good after the catch at the ball, but getting him in at the right time in a way where he's catching it.
Or throwing him open.
Right, throwing him open, things that he does. I mean, Sean will tell you there are times when his vision and anticipation are, off the charts. And then he also still has the arm talent to get the ball there when and where it should be. It just, I guess it just doesn't look as spectacular somehow as the way, Aaron Rodgers sprints, rolls out on a dead run and flicks his wrist and the ball zips across the field. Right? It just doesn't look as spectacular the way Drew does it. But the production, I think, speaks for itself, and it doesn't come by accident. And I think that's why the people who cover him, a lot of the criticism of him comes from people who don't really cover him and understand the team from top to bottom, and all the phases of the game and their weaknesses and strengths, and aren't able to see, from the beginning of training camp to the end of the season, how Drew maximizes a team's strengths and minimizes its weaknesses. And so, they just, and then, of course, also, being contrarian also gets ratings. I mean, I hope they're not sinking that low, the people who are criticizing him, just to be contrarian for the sake of it. But it happens, you know, in national media and especially on talk shows.
One guy picks one side, one picks the other there.
No doubt, no doubt.
So,
again, he's not in player personnel. The Saints have tried to put good defense on. They've drafted. They brought in free agents, Jarvis Bird, gone down a lot. Breeze has been the constant here. He cannot, in my mind, he can't be penalized because of the lack of the front office putting not a great defense, middle-of-the-road defense out there every year for him.
Yeah, this is Breeze's 13th season with the Saints. They've made the playoffs 6 times, and they've missed the playoffs 6 times, which is a lot of people have been pointing to. You talk about Rodgers. Rodgers got hurt. He's been hurt a lot recently there. He's not 100% right now. Breeze stays healthy. He missed 1 game because of injury. That was a Carolina game they almost won. Luke McCown got picked by Josh Norman at the last second of the game. He's healthy. He's always there. That's another thing that's his workout routine is insane. Him and Brady, they have 2 of the best workout routines ever. They played a clip yesterday on Colin Cowherd's show from Brady, and Brady's like, I just love to watch film. Like, he watches film all Monday, all Tuesday, and all Saturday every single week. And I don't know how many quarterbacks out of the 32 are obsessed with watching film as much as Breeze and Brady are. They're cut from a different cloth there. I don't believe Ben Roethlisberger sitting there 3 days of the week and that he's just locked himself in a room watching tape. I just think those 2 guys are on a different wavelength, and I think they're the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL that are active right now. I think Breeze is better than Roethlisberger, Manning, or Rodgers right now.
You touched on it. You guys had the clip last night on your show. I've said that he has the ability to play 3 or 4 more years as long as we don't see a drop-off. But I think he kind of made it clear in that locker room that if they win a championship, he's done.
It's hard. I will say this. We know how great a shape Breeze is in.
Right.
But it is a grind, man.
Well, there's no doubt.
It's every day.
Right.
Going back to, because I have so much I can bounce off. I don't know if Brett has seen this, but with Tom versus Time on Facebook Watch, Breeze is in Costa Rica Brady's on Costa Rica vacation. He's got shoulder pads on at the beach, throwing with some of his buddies there every day. Like, it is non-size 365 now. And that's it's a grind on your body and on your mind. The OTAs, all the workouts. If you win another one, I mean, Breeze has kids that are growing up, and he wants to see them grow up. They split their time between New Orleans and San Diego. They spend the spring and the summer in San Diego there. I'm sure he wants to be around with them year-round. He's financially set up for life. He's got his hands in a ton of things. Him and his wife are in walk-ons, and I could probably name like 5 others right now if they came to my head. But he's financially set. So right now, he just wants that second ring. And if he can get that, then maybe Teddy Bridgewater, who they traded for, he learns the whole system. Maybe he'll be back next year. I know Teddy doesn't enjoy sitting on the bench this entire season. But right now, that's the way it looks.
I get a lot of mixed signals from Drew because I think he really does love playing. And
so do I.
He also is a master motivator. And I don't want to say to the point of being disingenuous. I just think that he knows how to word things that get the reaction he wants. You know what I mean? And so when he's trying to inspire his teammates, it's just tough to tell. Is he trying to inspire them to understand that he recognizes how fragile or tenuous his existence is in the NFL at his age, because any major injury pretty much
it's over.
You just don't recover right at that age as well, and it's a lot harder than it was for him when he was in his 20s and did it the first time here. At the same time, you know, and I still also get mixed signals from him about his family, because I think his kids love that he is a quarterback.
Right. And I think he enjoys having the kids around and experiencing it. And he said as much.
And, you know, and it's the oldest kid, sure, is, you know, has grown up seeing this now since the Super Bowl, so, you know what I mean? He's always going to remember it. But the youngest ones won't yet, you know, not as well anyway. I mean, they're still pretty young, so I think it's kind of, it really is one of those wait and see things. I mean, I think there's a lot of variables. I don't know if the Super Bowl will necessarily end it. I mean, I'm sure he'd love to go out on top like Peyton Manning did, but Manning wasn't really in shape to play anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
No.
I mean, he was really
That defense
really
for the Broncos was fantastic.
falling off. And Breeze, I mean, if Breeze has a 5,000-yard season and he's on pace to break his own completion percentage record right now, I don't know if he'll sustain it for the last 11 games, but he's like 78% right now.
It's unreal. It's uncanny.
It's crazy because 72 is a record that he set, you know, and they have some good young players, and the contract problems don't really come up for 2 more years, I think. Maybe they start to come up next year with Mike Thomas, but you know, and then Kamara, but then you have to figure it out. But
Ramshack.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't see if he stays healthy all through this year and does well, and they do well, even if they win the Super Bowl, I don't see how he can give up the second year of the contract, which is also worth a lot of money.
Yep, no doubt. Guys, let's shift now to the team. And I think a lot of people thought 4-1 by the break. I did. I thought they'd maybe lose to Atlanta on the road. I didn't see the Tampa Bay loss. I didn't see them playing so close and blading that down to Cleveland. Didn't really look good in the first few games of the season with the defense. They've gotten better every single week. That's one thing you can hang your hat on. They've won the fourth quarters of games. That's another thing you can hang your hat on, especially, again, since the Atlanta game. Garland, critique where we are right now with the Saints.
The offense is fantastic. There's no doubt. Now with Ingram back, he's nice and fresh. This offense is as dangerous as it's ever been. The defense has some issues. But I will say this, Marcus Davenport, I know a lot of people have been all over that trade and they should have did that. He's starting to show, man, he wreaked havoc on that line. He forced the fumble of Alex Smith. So we're starting to see Davenport step up.
He kind of mirrors the defense, kind of getting better every week.
Cornerback situation, though, I know it looked better, but it was Alex Smith. Alex Smith missed a ton of reads and passes.
And his interception was horrible.
Hardy wasn't even in the play and was able to get over there and get that interception.
That's still something. For Lattimore's case, at least it's a concussion, so he'll be back. It's not a leg issue or an injury there. It's a concussion problem. He should be back in a couple of weeks there. But at least Crawley's, there's a lot of film out there because after week 1, week 2, they said it was a technique problem. Hopefully for their sake, they figured out what the problems are and they're going to fix them because the defense is still, the secondary is still a little shaky. But they got some big dogs coming up. I mean, when you got the Ravens and you got the Vikings and you got the Rams, that
Cincinnati, Philadelphia.
Yeah, Cincinnati's in there too. It's a torturous schedule. Yeah. So luckily they got the 4-1 right now, but they still need to fix the defense.
Your thoughts on the team at the break?
Yeah, I never really understood the criticism anyway of Davenport only because. I don't know, those of us who have covered this game for a long time, sometimes amazing draft picks don't pan out in the first year, never mind the first 4 games. And he's already starting to develop, but there was always going to be some kind of curve with him coming out of a mid-major. But he is now really showing potential to be a contributor in the pass rush. And that, I mean, having a compliment to Cam Jordan, that one little thing, or individual thing, I should say, it's a huge thing. Right. That one thing can completely tip the balance of this defense's performance and ranking.
It helps every level.
It helps everything.
Right.
Teams will pay dearly for blocking Jordan the way they have in the past. And if they can't do that, then Jordan, who's an all-pro and still in his prime, is going to wreak havoc. And you're going to see a lot of stuff going on. And I think that also Sheldon Rankins has started to play a little bit better lately. The linebacker still has to figure it out, and the secondary still has to figure it out. But the burden on the secondary drops, as we know, like in kind of in proportion to how well the pass rush does. So the defense has looked a lot better in the last 2 games, I think.
3 real surprises for me. Well, on offense, Taysom Hill. The utilization of Taysom Hill, taking the ball out of the Hall of Famer's hands and handing it to Taysom Hill. Again, maybe needed to do that more when Ingram was out. It'll be interesting to see how this thing continues to evolve. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the play of the secondary, again, that it's not the par that it was last year, but also now the play of the interior of the defensive line, which I all offseason talked about, that I thought that was going to be the Achilles heel. Got to give a lot of credit to Stallworth, Rankins, Onyemata, and Davidson. Well, really Onyemata and Stallworth in my mind, and that have played very, very well up front. They're stopping the run. I didn't buy into again, where they were in terms of the statistics and the rankings against the run early, but I think it's legit now. I think you can see this team has the ability to stop the run. Guys, what about you?
One other thing I want to point out there, with all the Breeze excitement, like there was 3 other storylines that just got like bulldozed. That was Ingram was back and had 2 touchdowns, which we barely even talked about. Sure. Taysom Hill had his first NFL touchdown, and then the craziness of about midnight with Michael Thomas. First off, the ski mask. I heard about it. I didn't actually get to see the picture of it until later on that night. And then the infighting. That was the lead story on ESPN.com the next day. Right. It wasn't Breeze. There was just so many other storylines in that game. That's what I remember. I remember Breeze breaking the record, but there was just so much else going on. I mean, we went and interviewed Taysom Hill, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm really excited. That was my first NFL touchdown." But he's like, but there's other big stuff going on there. So I didn't want to gloss over that there's some craziness going on in that instance there. But with the secondary, when you talked about Davenport and expectations, I think those expectations are out there because what Lattimore and Marcus Williams did last year. Yes. And now people are like, it's like fast food. They just want it now. And they saw what happened with Lattimore and with Williams last year. And that's why the pressure was on Davenport to deliver right away, because now the fans are like, well, Jeff Ireland and Mickey Loomis are red hot with these draft picks. And people were losing their minds during training camp when, the 4th rounder they drafted got Leonard got ran out, and they're like, "Oh, it's a bad draft." And I'm like, "No, the roster's really good right now." So that's the other thing with Davenport there, that he was feeling the heat. But to your point about the defense, if Lattimore had a bad training camp, he got burned in the first few weeks. But I think he's starting to figure it out. And I think Crawley's starting to figure it out, and PJ is starting to figure it out.
Well, he's in his natural position at nickel corner. That's where he belongs.
It did hurt that P-Rob's probably out for the year on the IR. That didn't help. Kirk Coleman's given leadership. I know he's not playing as much. Von Bell's getting a lot of run.
I think Von Bell's playing very, very well.
Yeah, Von Bell's kind of, he was a forgotten man, and he's coming back again there. Marcus Williams, all the problems that that just shows you Dennis Allen is that good a defensive coordinator, because there was so many issues in those first few weeks, and first 3 weeks, because the Falcons game, they got torched pretty good too. But they didn't get worked over. OBJ had 60 yards receiving. They did well against the Redskins and the Giants, so maybe they are figuring it out.
Surprises for you?
Well, first of all, I think going back to the offense, I think it's the interesting thing about the offense is not only has it been great, but it's only getting better. I mean, to see Meredith lead the team in receptions and be up there in yards over 71 yards after being a non-factor the first few weeks. Like, he's developing chemistry and getting healthier. And Traquan Smith is obviously starting to figure it out. And they had some huge numbers in the first 3 games without those guys doing anything. Yes. Or Ingram being there. So, in Ingram's case, I mean, now they're going to be able to control the clock better, I think, by his physical style of running.
And I think he makes the whole offense more physical the way he runs as well.
Yeah, and he could change the tenor of games and also take, when Sean Payton talks about complementary football, I mean, a guy like Ingram and his style of running, and especially if they have leads, could actually minimize the defense's exposure to getting burned and improve their rankings and improve their overall perception of them, which is what I think happened to a large extent last year, which is why expectations might have been a little unfairly high this year on them, especially at the beginning of the year. So, those are all interesting things to consider. And, I mean, it's really looking up coming out of the bye. Well, I mean, they can only kind of disappoint from here.
Well, I mean, Garland mentioned it. Baltimore, at Minnesota, Rams at home, at Cincinnati, and then Philadelphia at home. A minute each, guys. How good is this team? How far can they go?
They can go all the way to the Super Bowl in Atlanta. The Rams are 5-0 right now. They're in a poor division. They're not going to get challenged as much against the Seahawks, even though they did on the road. But overall, Seahawks Cardinals are garbage. They got their first win. The Niners aren't the same without Jimmy G. They're done with the season. So they're going to go undefeated in their own division. The opposite for the Saints. They're going to get pushed twice by Carolina. They always have trouble playing at Tampa Bay, so that's going to be a tough one. Even when the Falcons come to New Orleans, you know that's going to be a close game. It's always tight. I don't care if the Falcons are going to be 2-6, 2-7. So I think that the defense is starting to figure it out. I think this team has the potential. I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl because I think the Rams are red hot on both sides of the ball also, but they're going to be if you got travel plans in January, cancel them there because there could be some road games you're going to if you're a Who Dat fan.
Yeah. Final word.
Well, I actually think that there might be home games to start off because I think they're a division winner and a top 2 seed.
Right.
So they could be going on the road for the NFC Championship game, but maybe not until then. Probably a first-round bye, which would be good. But, and of course, this is all barring unforeseen injuries to a key player, which tips the balance in the NFL all the time.
So you're a buyer. You're buying into it.
Yeah, I got to buy into it because even their one loss was, when you look back at it, a one-touchdown loss against a team with 2 elite receivers in the first game of the season, totally healthy. You know what I mean? And just the Saints. The thing about their training camp is that I don't think the starters get a lot of really good live looks during training camp because they're so focused on health and rest.
Right,
for the
and
key
trying
players.
to find the right 53.
Yeah, right. And then you end up with a situation like in that first regular season game where they're a little disorganized.
Yeah, September's the new preseason we hear. At least that's what we hear now. Brett Martel, the Associated Press, Garland, Gillen of Fox 8 Sports, our guest tonight. Quick word from our underwriters. We'll be right back. Guys, we'll go to LSU next.
Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhardt has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhardt's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhardt's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Our guest tonight, Brett Martel, the Associated Press, Garland, Gillen of Fox 8 Sports. We shift to the LSU Tigers. Losers last week to the Florida Gators, 27-19. They are now 5-1, 12th in the coaches poll, 13th in the AP. I thought a little bit too much of a drop. You're an AP voter. I'd like to get your take on that. Was that an overcorrection in your mind?
Well, so this is my 9th year doing it, and my biggest pet peeve, and it happened in the AP poll this week. LSU was 13. You know who 14 was? Florida. Nothing works. You got to understand how the AP polls got to work. Where you need, if they have mutual opponents and they beat each other, you got to put Florida in front of LSU. But also, you got to. Now I worked it in. Kentucky beat Florida.
Right.
Kentucky had one loss at A&M. So I had to keep Kentucky ahead of, and now I might be one of the only people that did this, but I had to keep Kentucky ahead of Florida because Kentucky went to Florida and beat them in the swamp. A lot of people dropped Kentucky past Florida and LSU. Well, Kentucky, their only loss was on the road at A&M. So you got to do a lot of juggling to keep the teams, like opponents there. So that's why I have LSU at 14. In my own poll, they're 13 in AP, and I put Florida at 13 because, like opponents there, drove me nuts. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, and the AP voters move around a lot.
Well, why the big drop? I mean, from 5 to out of the top 10. I mean, I would have thought they would have been right around 10, honestly.
You want to handle this one, Big Dog?
I've noticed that some voters, and this is what I like about Garland, is I think a lot of voters are very reactionary and they don't think about all these scenarios that Garland runs through, and they don't look at, you got to kind of balance who they played, where they played them, how much they won or lost by, and body of work. for the season, right? Because sometimes you can just have a bad matchup in the game and it tips the balance. But you know that for the season, that team might have been better. Now, the thing with Florida, though, and I agree, I mean, they're both 5-1, and Florida's lone loss is to another team that's played very, very well. I mean, Florida is going to go into I think, who are they playing, Vanderbilt this week? Or if they go in, they could go into the cocktail party with a chance, theoretically, to like vie for the East.
Right.
I mean, Georgia's probably going to beat them, but yeah. So
other teams around LSU right now. I will say this: I'm glad UCF is finally getting a run. They got kind of worked last year where they had a really good team. So UCF's in front of LSU. Penn State's in front of LSU. Penn State's only loss is Ohio State. So those are teams that are right now in front of them. I mean, Notre Dame's undefeated, West Virginia. So it's right in front of them. I will say this, and Brett just mentioned it. AP voters are very reactionary. If they beat Georgia this week, they will just rocket right back up again. And I don't care. I don't care if Florida beat LSU, and if LSU beats Georgia, I'm sorry. You can do like opponents, but then when that happens, you rocket LSU back up again. But I will say this: Notre Dame's and the West Virginians of the world will probably stay in front of LSU because they can only play the teams on their schedule, and they are undefeated right now.
Guys, the one thing that really surprised me about the game on Saturday, look, I thought it would be a close game. There were very physical games always between those two teams. It's become a real rivalry now. They don't like each other. Getting out schemed, getting out physical, and that's on both sides of the ball. Aranda rarely gets out schemed, okay, and Ensminger up to this point has not gotten out schemed. I thought both guys got out schemed, and I thought both the offensive and defensive lines got out physicaled. Really surprised about the defensive line more than anything else getting out physical. Garland?
Yeah, defensive line, that was the key.
Yeah.
They got no sacks.
None.
In Florida, it was in
the chase-on loss has just now been magnified.
You saw how good Chase-on was in that opener, man. He was in the backfield every play in Jerry World. I was at that game. I could tell when he went down, it didn't look good when he tore his ACL in the fourth quarter. But the turning point in that game was LSU was up 7-0. LSU was driving again. I could feel it that this is about to be a blowout. And then Burrow gets blindside hit, fumbles the ball, and the game completely flipped on its head. To not get any sacks against Felipe Franks, who is above average at best quarterback, and to give up as many sacks as LSU did and to turn the ball over 3 times in that contest, that's the killer, man. That sack fumble changed the game completely there. The problem is there's been too many injuries on the offensive line, and they're moving guys around a lot, and they're still trying to figure out who that final 5 is. Yeah. So that's going to be a killer for them.
I'm not counting the last turnover, just because because first of all, if Justin Jefferson or Stephen Sullivan make a catch,
yes, yeah, you're right,
and they're not even that position.
Bad read on the Brad Stewart pick, though.
But he just kind of threw that last one up for grabs. But that pick was huge. I mean, they were down by 1 point. All they needed was a field goal, and they really were good enough to drive into field goal range and win that game. I mean, LSU came away from that game feeling like they blew it, not like Florida necessarily outplayed them. And Florida played as well as anybody could have expected. No, Florida played great, and LSU still should have beat them on the road, which in some ways is encouraging for LSU going forward. But they were not only in a hostile environment, I guess they were in a really hot environment, and maybe they just, for whatever reason, maybe they just didn't have it that day as much as they should have at some key positions, especially the ones like with the pass rush, and then maybe they were trying to do some substitution patterns to rest guys that were too conservative, like with Devin White being out for that touchdown.
How does that happen?
Everyone's confused about that, and and I think the coaching staff, in hindsight, regrets it. Sometimes good coaches outthink themselves.
They overthink it, no doubt. The chase-on loss, I thought they'd be able to overcome it, okay, but what we're seeing now, at least in my mind, and I'd like you guys to comment, a ripple effect, throughout the defensive line. Teams now can double and triple team Rashard Lawrence, okay? I mean, he's not been the force that he's been in the past, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that, again, he has got almost the entire offensive line on him. Now they're having to use guys like White and Delpit, some of their better players, use them to try to affect the passer. Again, there's a ripple effect to the loss of Chase-on now, and not having someone that's comparable to him to be able to rush the passer.
Yeah, Fajoko's been pretty solid for LSU
but,
this year.
But think why? I mean, again, the focus is on Lawrence.
Yeah, so he's getting some run. One other thing I want to go back to, LSU's wins were against 2 ranked teams, but I'm really intrigued about this game on Saturday because Miami is still ranked, but they played nobody. Auburn went to Mississippi State and lost. So we're starting to see that Auburn might not be that good.
Right.
So LSU's wins are getting a little less significant.
But as a voter, do you have to play them when they come up?
Right.
And they were ranked.
No, I'm not doing it as a voter. I'm doing it as trying to figure out how good LSU really is. And that's why I'm really glad.
Well, how good is LSU?
Well, that's right what I'm getting into.
Will we find out this
We're
week?
going to find out this weekend because Georgia, if you look at their schedule, yes, they beat South Carolina on the road, who's above average. Right. They beat Missouri on the road, who's above average. They beat Tennessee at home on national television, and Tennessee is garbage. They're not a good team. So Georgia hasn't played anybody that would really put a scare into either. So I say either. LSU Auburn game was really tough. I was there. It was blazing. It was over 90 degrees. And Miami had a lot of hype going into the season, but we still don't know. We still don't know what LSU's about. Was what my point is there, and we're going to find out this week. And this is really going to be a good test to find out what's going on because this defense that has a lot of problems, you say, is about to get exposed that they are. Jake Fromm is legit. Good running backs, wide receivers, a lot of 4- and 5-star recruits. This is going to be cool. They've sent alerts out to tell you to get there early. The place is going to be jam-packed. And luckily, they should get a good crowd because the weather's going to be fantastic this weekend. It's not going to be blazing 95 degrees, so the LSU fans don't give me these lame excuses. It's too hot in October in Tiger Stadium there. It's going to be rowdy. And
I can tell you right now, I did my show from Oceana Grill today, as I do every Thursday. Quarter's packed with Georgia fans. So the Georgia fans
travel well.
They
took over Notre Dame last year. When Notre Dame went to Georgia played Notre Dame, it was a third of Georgia fans. Of course, going to Notre Dame, it doesn't happen often. And the same thing with LSU playing Georgia. That doesn't happen often. So, and the games have been really competitive. I vividly remember the Georgia LSU game where Zach Mettenberger went off, but also Aaron Murray the other way. That was just back and forth. That was like the Falcons-Saints game in Atlanta.
85 points combined.
Oh, that game was crazy. I'll never forget. I covered that game. I was in Athens.
Brett, is this a barometer game?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing about Georgia, too, is they haven't played anybody great, but they also have won all of their games by at least 2 touchdowns. And, in fact, 2 touchdowns is the single lowest margin of victory they've had. And they've beaten everybody else by a lot more. So that's the thing is that, they haven't had any, games where, like, okay, they won at the end, but it looked uncomfortable. Like, they looked like they've been in control, and they're able, and what we're talking about LSU's defense, Georgia is able to affect the passer without blitzing. They're able to play in their base, and I think that helps with their pass coverage and so forth. And then their combination, Jake Fromm has been very accurate. Actually, he's been throwing over 70% this year. Not for a lot of yards. He doesn't have to because they're running the ball a lot with Evander Holyfield's son. Is that who that is? Elijah. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a barometer game, probably more so for LSU than for Georgia. I mean, I could easily see Georgia winning by 2 touchdowns again, but I also think that LSU being at home has had promising enough results that maybe they'll pull out the upset, and it would be quite a story if they did.
You got to follow?
The thing that's helping LSU right now is that Georgia hasn't been tested in their entire stadium. I think they can beat Mississippi State next week. Alabama, everybody's just losing their minds about how great Alabama is. Who's Alabama played this year? Nobody. I will say this. I'm not saying that LSU's going to smoke these 3 teams coming up, but Georgia and Alabama, who are number 1 and 2 in America in the AP poll right now, neither one of those teams have been pushed to the limit. A lot of these games, Tua's not even playing in the second half of these games. This is going to get really good for LSU. If they can beat Georgia this week, Alabama is not going to – you talk about the 2 touchdowns for Georgia. Alabama, their average margin of victory has got to be easily double digits. It might be in the 20s right now. I mean, they beat Louisiana by 49 points there. Yeah. So it's starting to play in LSU's favor if they can win on Saturday, that they can do some damage because all their big games are at home because their road games are at Arkansas, I've used the word garbage too much already in the show. If Brett's well versed in the thesaurus, he can come up with another word for Arkansas, but they're not good.
Rubbish.
Dreck.
Yeah, they're not good. And A&M, as you've seen, they're going to get better though. But LSU go in A&M and beat them also there. Kentucky lost there, but that was a close game. Clemson's gone there and won, and Alabama's beat them. So LSU, everything's in front of them right now.
Brett, Tulane 2-4 now, lose to Cincinnati 37-21. Coming off the biggest win in the Willie Fritz era, well, the biggest win of the season against Memphis, where they destroyed them. I mean, shocked everybody the way they handled Memphis. What's going on with the Greenies?
Yeah, I mean, they're very. It's kind of an enigma. It's frustrating to watch them
really
because even within the games where they're losing, they show you reasons to be encouraged, and then it's just so inconsistent. You know, it's like the first touchdown pass that they had from McMillan to, I can't remember if it was Ancalada who caught it in the corner of the end zone.
Or was it Mooney? Or
maybe it was Mooney. But the first touchdown pass that McMillan threw looked fantastic, and I'm like, wow, this could be a really competitive game. And then they've got a punt blocked, and they get gashed, and they're making all kinds of mistakes. And I don't even know what happened with Jonathan Banks. Like, they must have been really mad about that attempted fourth down.
He got benched not because of injury. He got benched because of performance, and they're going to evaluate during the bye week this week.
So I think that it's a little bit of a mess right now, and they can still save it and become bowl eligible, but they really got to turn it around fast.
Well, and Garland, you know this, the rest of the games are against opponents they can beat within the conference.
This is crazy to say. I don't want to light the fall down on it, but Tulane still has a shot to go to a bowl game.
There's no doubt.
Navy is their final opponent of the year, so they got SMU next. They can beat SMU. They got East Carolina, who's not doing well this year. I did the schedule the other day. I don't have the schedule blazed in my mind what the other team is, but I know in the final game of the year they play Navy at home, and Navy is just an average team this year. This isn't one of your normal Navy teams. That game right there could be for a bowl game, just like they did with SMU last year, because they can beat SMU and East Carolina, and the other American team is gonna pop in my head in about 1 second here, but they still have the shot.
Yeah, they just and this is probably a really good week for them to have the bye too. I think because they have some things to figure out, and if they start rolling next week.
I mean, they're not going to be overmatched in any game that's left on the schedule.
Overmatched.
They're not.
Houston.
Right.
Houston's a game.
One.
Yeah, Houston's the one they're not going to win. That's the one where I think they're going to have some trouble. It's at Houston there. But, Tulsa. So I think they can beat SMU, they can beat Tulsa, they can beat ECU. They can be 5-6. Which that's going to be a heck of a. They're going to go on a heck of a run right now. I realize I'm talking
4-5, right?
Yeah, they're going to go 4-5, but they got some big games at home and they got Navy.
Guys, one of the big talking points this week as the NBA season opens up next Wednesday, the Pelicans will be on the road, nationally televised game against the Houston Rockets, is the future of Anthony Davis and where he's going to be. I got to tell you, all I keep hearing is Anthony Davis' next stop. From guys that I respect, great writers that I respect, to again, bloggers or anybody that's got a podcast, everybody knows where Anthony Davis is going. Guys, what's the situation? Brett, I'll take you first. Got another, 2 years and an option left on his deal. He'll be eligible for the Supermax deal in the summer of 2019 after this season. Don't know many people are going to walk away from 5 years, $230 million, but maybe that's a possibility. We've heard Kyrie Irving has already talked to Anthony Davis about joining him in Boston. We keep hearing because of Clutch Sports, he's going to end up with LBJ out in Los Angeles with the Lakers. Everybody that wants to put a super team together, AD is going to be the final piece of that. What's the situation with Anthony Davis here in New Orleans?
Well, I think he likes New Orleans, and he can be retained. But he feels now, at this point in his career, he's been here 6 seasons, been in the playoffs twice, never passed the second round. He's in the prime of his career and one of the top 3 players in the NBA. He feels that it's incumbent upon him, where he is in his contract, to exert maximum leverage on the organization. And this is not a Chris Paul situation where we didn't even know who owned the team. And, Chris just felt like there was way too much uncertainty, and he didn't want the prime of his career squandered. Anthony doesn't either, but he plays for an organization that's very stable in terms of ownership and finances. So he's placing maximum leverage on them, to make sure they are committed to winning. And I don't know if he's convinced yet. And that's one of the reasons why we're seeing.
But can you win here in New Orleans the way the NBA is set up now? I mean, that's the question.
Yeah, you can. Well, I don't know.
Can you win a championship? Because that's what we're talking about here.
I'm not sure about a championship, but they can at least do as well as Oklahoma City's ever done. You know, and the idea, the whole reason they even brought Dell Demps here was because he came up through San Antonio, and they thought, well, maybe he will do here what he learned from San Antonio.
Right.
And it hasn't come to fruition yet at all. And I think that Anthony Davis is going to try to basically put the franchise's feet to the fire and say, you've got to really step up here with the roster moves. Like, we've got to show promise this year, and then going forward, you know, you need to give me the foundation to attract a big-time
Well, that was going to be my next question, and I want to get to you, Garland, on that. Is, again, where's AD in attracting these superstars to New Orleans? Right. Like we see the LBJs or other players that, again, out at Golden State, hey, come join us. Easy to come join a team like Golden State, but to build something here in New Orleans, again, where's the cachet there of him saying, instead of Kyrie Irving, come to Boston, hey, Kyrie, come to New Orleans?
Right. I mean, I think that he has done it successfully on certain levels, such as with Julius Randle. But
Cousins?
Initially, but then they lost him. But, you know, that was a tougher situation because there's so much uncertainty surrounding a big man with an Achilles tear. So he can get there going forward. He's going to have to be aggressive about that. But, you know, it's 3 more years under contract. I mean, people will say 2 because of the player option.
Right,
but,
player option, right.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I think I've been listening to trade rumors about AD because the rest of the country and the national media, they just can't believe, like, New Orleans can't have a player that good and keep them. They lost Chris Paul. Like, they just can't believe it, right? So, you know, we'll have to see what happens. But it hasn't happened yet, and it's been like 5 years of trade rumors with him.
Garland, got about a minute and a half left. You got the final word.
Well, I will say this. So the Warriors are the 1 seed. The Rockets are the 2 seed. Who's the 3 seed right now? The Jazz, OKC, the Pelicans. Spurs are they're trending downward.
Right.
The Blazers, the new Lakers. I think the Pelicans, if they can get a 3 or 4 seed, that shows that things are on the up and up with the Pelicans, and the team's young right now. It's a young roster, so it's all about winning. Eric, if they tank this year, they look like if they go they miss the playoffs, which I think would be hard because the Timberwolves are trending down right now with their situation with Jimmy Butler. The Spurs are getting old, and one of their young players just tore his ACL the other day. So in Russell Westbrook, you know, they're going to slowly bring him along here to start the season. I think the Pelicans could be a top 4 seed, and if they're not, then this offseason is when AD pushes. It's all about winning, Eric. If you win, they'll stay.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, it's been amazing. You know, we hear the disrespect for Drew Brees, and almost in the same breath, Anthony Davis is going anywhere but New Orleans.
Right, because I think he's too good to play.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's unreal at this point. Guys, quickly, about 15 seconds, how good can they be this year?
Pelicans, I think they can be between a, you know, mid 40 to 50 win team.
Which top 4,
I think they can be 4 or 5. Yeah, I mean they need to, like Garland said, I think they need to be a 4 and have a home advantage in the first round. And if they don't make it past the second round, it needs to be because they're playing someone like the Warriors. Which, let's face it, I mean, it's not fair to say the season's a failure when you lose to the Warriors, which is not only a championship team, but it's not even close. Like they're a generational team.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, if you're the 4 seed and you win your first round game, you're going to play the Warriors in the second round. So maybe they shoot for a 3 seed. Easy for me to say sitting right here.
Yeah, there you go. Garland, Gillen of Fox 8 Sports, Brett Martel, the Associated Press. Thanks for being with us this evening on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE-TV at 10 p.m. Also, Friday nights, 9 o'clock. That is Pelicans Broadcasting. Check us out on Pelican Sports. You catch me on the radio, Sports 1280, 101.1 FM HD2, and the iHeartRadio app. That is noon to 2 weekdays. You can also listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. Every single episode of Inside New Orleans Sports can also be seen at ericasher.com as well. Again, special thanks to our guest tonight, Garland Gillen of Fox 8 Sports, Brett Martel, the Associated Press. Also to our fantastic underwriters who support this show. Please support those underwriters. And special thanks to the WLAE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, also Alex Chacon, Naila Jones, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.